And we have, since I don't pronounce his proper name very well, he allows me to call him Mr. Roger Deuce. And Roger is a retired professor who taught at Clemson University for over 20 years. Since then, he has lectured across the United States and around the globe. His passion is searching for peace and coexistence across the globe based on Baha'i principles. So let's give Roger a big unity welcome.
You pass out that thing that I gave you. I may not have enough copies, so maybe if every two of you could share one. There are a few passages, a few prayers for meditation and peace. I'll share with you the first one that you see on that sheet of paper. And let's reflect on it a minute and then talk about it a minute. Blessed is the spot and the house and the place and the city and the heart and the mountain and the refuge and the cave and the valley and the land and the sea and the island and the meadow where mention of God hath been made and his praise glorified. Now, Baha'u'llah was the founder of the Baha'i faith, the latest in the series of monotheistic religions across the globe, which appeared perhaps 40 years before unity was formed, essentially based on these principles that I'm sure all of you hold. That is, that there is one God, that we consider him as the unknowable essence. No one can really know the essence of God. We can know him through his attributes, which we call virtues, right? All the virtues. So the other word for God is goodness, one and the same, so far as our limited human capabilities are concerned. So there's one God and there's one race, which is the human race. Something that we as human beings have forgotten, right? Yes. Through centuries. And we need to come back together again. There is one race and there is the human race. And I said there are three. And the third principle is that there is really one religion which has been revealed through man through time, which has been given different names. They have different names. Krishna, Buddha, Noah, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, and Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith. For us, it's all one and the same. The reason why we make distinction is that we forget, because it is man's resistance to change, that it's the same reality. Kindness, compassion, generosity, love, right? Yes. Gratitude, devotion, detachment, compassion is universal. You go to India, you go to the middle of China and Japan and Europe and the US and South America and Africa. We all yearn for that essential truth. How wonderful it is if we forget the divisive thoughts that I have the truth, I have the absolute truth, and everyone else is wrong. When we get away from that divisiveness that unity and Baha'is in particular are trying to do, that would be the beginning of peace on earth as it is in heaven. Right? So this first meditation, I said we need to reflect on in a minute, is that whenever we think of God, whenever we think of unity, whenever we think of that blessing which is goodness, nothing else but goodness, and then we are beginning of peace. But it's school, high school, elementary school, church, it's all one and the same. Home, right? Whenever we have peace at our home, it is peace, it is God, it is oneness, it is compassion. So let's focus and meditate a minute before I begin my talk. all of us humans should always be in a state of prayer. All of our problems begin because we forget that we should always be in a state of prayer. And when we're not in a state of prayer, we begin judging others, right? Begin judging. Conflict begins. Divisions begin. Fights begin. Either within the family, or in the city, or the nation, or across the planet. Right? And the world in which we live is divided, right? The divisions of race, the divisions of gender, nationalism, and you name it. And more than any of these, religious animosities, right? Because they've not understood the meaning of religion. I say to my friends, wherever you go, whatever church or synagogue or mosque that you go that teaches us compassion and oneness, go there again and again. And wherever you go, and the preacher starts shouting about division and hate, just leave, because that's not you, that's not God, right? Or try to help them if you can. Leave if you can't handle it, but we can handle it when we go to that preacher, to that congregation, and we say, God is love. Jesus was love. And so was all other manifestations of God. Nothing but love. And when we realize it, then there's peace on earth. But now, these problems of the world that I mentioned briefly, it seems to me are 10% of the problem. All of these problems are 10% of the problem. Today I'd like to talk, not really talk, share that 90%. And that 90%, what is it? That 90% is peace within, right? When we start having that absolute peace within, we are in prayerful mode all the time. We don't fight with ourselves, we don't fight with our neighbors. We have an eye which is chaste and kind and compassionate. Then we have achieved at least 90% of the peace. When our whole household becomes peaceful, our family is peaceful, our neighbors are peaceful, our city is peaceful, and then that peace spreads all across the globe, right? Without it, there is war. So let's focus on that peace within today. And I gave you that handout. I'm going to share with you, read for you the second of these prayers. Again, you see these prayers are from my perspective mainly, which is the Baha'i perspective. But of course, my perspective more and more has become global, which has included all these religions. But what Baha'i says that these are progressive revelations. It is the same truth which has been manifested to man through time, and that is the newest version in our language for today. In our language for today. The same truth, the same eternal truth, which is revealed to man, but it has to be updated, right? So that we can understand it. So it's just that updated essential truth. So that's the second one that you have in your handout. Oh God, refresh and gladden my spirit. Purify my heart. Illumine my powers. I lay all my affairs in thy hand. Thou art my guide and my refuge. I will no longer be sorrowful and grieved. I will be a happy and joyful being. Oh God, I will no longer be full of anxiety, nor will I let trouble harass me. I will not dwell on the unpleasant things of life. Oh God, thou art more friend to me than I am to myself. I dedicate myself to thee, O Lord. Purification of our heart. seeing everyone as our brothers and sisters, right? That brings us closer to God, to the master of existence, which is one and the same. Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, says, this is the changeless faith of God. Eternal in the past, eternal in the future. Same truth. You know, when our mind is healed to see the global nature of this absolute truth, then everything around us is peace and peaceful, right? We're peaceful. We're not at war with anybody. And like Jesus taught us, anyone who hurts us, we do the opposite, right? We're kind to them. We're gentle to them. And that brings further peace. I had a friend in college, over half a century ago, in New York City, when I went to college. I still remember her name. Good friend of mine. Her name was Linda Cavalin. And I met her after 4 decades in a conference. And this girl, who was now in her 60s, had dedicated 40 years of life in writing a book, which was primarily the collection on all the virtues that we call God. All virtues. Compassion and justice and detachment and all those. And he had taken from all these holy books everything which has written on the question of compassion, on love and justice. And this has become a beautiful, huge book called the Book of Virtues. The Book of Virtues. And I hope that in schools, in elementary school, high school, in college, they take this as a textbook and teach it, so that our mind becomes healed. We're not divided anymore, right? So I had my last copy and I gave it to another church. The Book of Virtues. You can look it up and buy it. And so she didn't stop at that. What she did, she took this book that she had written, and she had a lot of supplemental material with it. And she took it to 50 different countries across the planet, from Europe and Africa and Asia and South America. And I said, this is what I have to offer. And I wish that you would take it and teach it in your high schools, elementary schools. And 50 countries of the globe adopted that book. US hasn't yet, but she's working on it. So the countries which do not consider themselves too civilized and too much, they know everything, they were easier to accept. Many countries in Africa, South America, have adopted the book, which is basically the essential truths of all religions and all philosophers and poets across the planet. Beautiful. This is also what you are trying to do as unity, and what Baha'is are trying to do. And my vision and mission is to go to all churches and all synagogues and all mosques across the planet and share that truth that my friend was sharing, Linda. And say that the closer we come to that vision, the closer we are to God. You know, I was a professor. The only thing I learned is to watch my time. I know I have 9 minutes. If you look at your handout, you want to reflect on the third prayer. You know, all of these things that we're sharing today is peace within, which means that how can I become peaceful? And by the way, I left some literature over there. I'm going to charge you $3 for it. But the money would go to your church because you've been so kind to invite me. Among what you have there is this little book called The Hidden Words. And that's what Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, he spent 40 years in jail as the prisoner of Persian Ottoman Empire, last 10th century. That's what they would do to all good people, right? From Buddha to Jesus to everyone. All of these good people, either been executed, persecuted, or left in jail to rot. But then the words remain forever. So this is the shortest of his work. It is worth, to me, thousands of dollars, but it's only $3. And we go to a church. It's one of the things I've left for you. The first thing that he shares in this one, I don't have it in the handout. But he says, "Oh, son of spirit," we're all children of God, children of spirit. "My first counsel is this." My first counsel. And he calls this the essence and summary of all the religions of the world and all the teachings from Bible to Quran and all the rest. He says, "My first counsel is this: possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart. That thine may be a sovereignty ancient, imperishable, and everlasting." We have to have a pure heart. We have to have a gentle heart. We have to have a kind heart. And that brings us peace across the planet. So in that context, in the third area that you have on the handout, he says, "Create in me," he's asking God, "create in me a pure heart, oh my God, and renew a tranquil conscience within me, O my hope. Through the Spirit of power, confirm me thou in thy cause, O my best beloved. And by the light of thy glory, reveal unto me thy path, O thou, the goal of my desire. Through the power of thy transcendent might, lift me up unto the heaven of thy holiness, O source of my being. And by the breezes of thine eternity, gladden me, O thou Lord my God. Let thine everlasting melodies breathe tranquility on me, O my companion. And let the tidings of the revelation of thine incorruptible essence bring me joy, O thou who art the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the hidden. You know, when we go on the path of godliness, goodliness, same thing. What I've realized, I wish I knew these things when I was 15, but it takes time. When you're ready to leave this planet, you begin learning this stuff. It starts clicking, right? Everything else, degrees, and this thing and that thing, that research, all means nothing. All means nothing. You ultimately need to become selfless. You know, self is the main barrier for us as human beings. I know it. I'm going to tell you what to do. But if you get rid of self, that is the beginning of light. You see the light when you have forgotten the self, because this is the lower self. In Baha'u'llah says, in man, in all of us as human beings, there are two natures. His spiritual or higher nature, his material or lower nature. In one, he approaches God. In the other, he lives for the world alone. When we come to this holy place, we want to become unworldly, right? We want to become pure, which is our essence. So I will leave you with this last reflection or prayer. Oh my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. And that law is the law of service to our fellow man. That is the best kind of worship. Help me, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves. We come here for that blessing, so that you're not left alone. We get the guidance from the source. And you're all his agents to convey that eternal light, that eternal source of guidance. Leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily thou art their helper and their Lord. Thank you, my precious friends.
And now Kristen has a special song for us.
I was going to play something else originally, but after listening to that, I felt that there was no other song more appropriate than this one. So